All right, good evening, everybody. Welcome to our show here on Channel 6 TV, Community Focus. I'm Kenny Fogel. Glad you could be with us tonight, and we're going to talk about what's coming up in a few weeks that you get to do, and you get a vote. And that's on the 6th of November. I believe that's on a Tuesday this year, and every year. That's pretty much when they want to have election days, is on Tuesday. And they ask you to do one thing, and that's go out and cast your ballot. And one of the things that we have the responsibility to do here at Channel 6 is help you know who it is that's on the ballot and give you an educated version of how you can go out and vote. And we got with us today a man that no stranger to us here, Mr. Chad McCoy. Chad, thank you for taking the time out of the day to be with us.
Glad to do it.
Current state representative, 50th District State Representative, that's covering just primarily Nelson County, right?
Only Nelson County.
Only Nelson
County is actually 1/100th of the population, so it works out perfect.
Well, it worked out well, but I know it's over the years, it's always been a little piece of that, a little piece of that. So you know where your district is.
That's right. County line. It's pretty easy.
All right. Well, a couple of years ago, you were in here. We had this same conversation, and you were. I think the question I asked for you, are you ready to get into this type of work, the political and government work? And you said you'd let me know. Well, it's been 2 years.
Well, and I got to tell you, and I always joke, I don't know what this says about me, but it's been the most fun 2 years I've ever had.
Yeah.
So I've gone from a guy that did corporate defense work to, I always joke, I'm an ambulance chasing politician. You can't have gone more downhill than what I did, and I love it. Kenny, it's a hard job. I really didn't understand the time commitment. I am literally every single day, even if I'm not in the state, I'm dealing with constituent issues. We have great staff up in Frankfort. Frankfort's got so many good people.
Yeah.
And what's really been great about it is the variety of issues. You know, every single day, especially when we're in session, people come in, and my schedule is just packed. 15-minute appointments, and you might come see me about net metering, and then the next minute I've got somebody else that's coming to see me about a criminal law bill. And just having the opportunity to learn about everything that's coming in, hearing from all the folks, and getting to see what's going on is just, it's been a blast. I love it.
Well, you mentioned it being hard. Is the hard part keep it up with all this variety, or is it dealing with opposition, or what is it that makes it difficult?
You know, the hard part is staying informed for your constituents. You know, I never want to just vote. I want to know what's going on. And what you learn very quickly is who are the people that are telling you the truth, which ones are trying to, you know, wink, wink, get you to look over here a little bit.
Yeah.
And so you've got to ask a lot of questions. And I think it helps that I'm an attorney. I've said this back when I was running, and I see it even more now. Having somebody who can read the bills and literally think about, oh, wait a minute, how's that going to play in court? How's that going to be interpreted? What's a judge going to do with that? That is important because then you can start to ask the lobbyist questions. And I tell people this story, Kenny, all the time. Every issue, a lobbyist comes in to me and says, if you do X, the world is going to end. The next 15-minute appointment, if you don't do X, whatever it is, the world is going to end. And I'm like, okay, well, so we've established the world's ending. Now, let's really talk about what's this legislation trying to do? Who do you all represent? Who's behind it? You know, because you want to pass things that are...
Well, what is your resource to get that truth in the middle there? Is it the LRC? Is it somebody, or is it just your own study?
All the above. Quite frankly, it's asking questions. You know, I'll push the lobbyists. Tell me about that. Tell me where did you get those statistics? You're citing me all these numbers. I want to know. And then the LRC is wonderful. We have this nonpartisan organization that's up there, and they don't ask questions. They don't judge. They just work. So if I've got, you know, hey guys, I need to know. Somebody's telling me X, Y, and Z. Can you research that for me and get back with me? And boom.
Does it anger you when somebody comes in and just flat lies to you and tells you just something that you know can't possibly be true?
Absolutely. And I'll tell you, like I said, you learn very quickly who you can trust up there and who you can't. And those people don't get back on my calendar. And they know why. You know. So.
Well, again, being up there 2 years, a lot of issues. A lot of issues that most people don't even know about. It probably just went on day-to-day routine.
Right.
Then you get 2 or 3 hot-button issues that people are screaming at you on both sides. Do you feel, and this is just the last 2 years, you feel that what you did in the last 2 years is what you believe was the right thing to do.
Without a doubt, without a doubt. And I really hope people will, you know me off camera here. I'm not a partisan guy one way or another. If there's a good idea, there's a good idea. And I hope people will go back and look at my voting record. I didn't vote with the party every time. Quite frankly, they're mad at me for half of the votes I did.
Yeah.
I really tried, Kenny, to be educated, to be well prepared so that I could ask the questions in committee, ask the questions of the lobbyists, listen to the constituents. You know, I did the coffee events that Dave Floyd started, continued those. Can't tell you how many folks came to visit me in Frankfurt, that wrote me letters, you know, read all of that.
Yeah.
And then I go vote for us. I'm all about Nelson County. And honestly, proud of every vote I took up there. And I think you can see the results. So I hope people will ignore whatever rhetoric you're getting from the national or whatever, and go look. It's all right there.
We'll get into I guess the two issues that probably will be in this particular campaign, obviously the pension issue and the right to work issue. That'll be two issues that I'm sure you're going to face in the next few months. And we took action on both. You feel like those actions were?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, look, I disagree with you. I don't think right to work's an issue. That law has already passed. That's done.
It'll be brought up.
Well, I'm sure it will, but the reality is it's not going to be brought up in the House.
Okay.
It's
no, I don't mean that. I mean
it's not going to
your
make
campaign.
Sure, but here's what we were told. Everybody said, "Oh, you pass right to work, unions are going to dissolve." Well, I've asked them. Union membership's up. So all the sky is falling that we heard turned out not to be true at all. And what did we get for it? Exactly what we were told. We were told there were companies dying to move to Kentucky. Again, doesn't matter where you necessarily fall, but when you're trying to bring good jobs, when you're trying to grow the economy of Kentucky, you've got Tennessee to the south, Indiana to the north. They were very different looking states that are geographically very close to us. And I want to make sure you think about this geography for a minute, because this is fascinating. 60% of the U.S. population lives within a 300-mile radius of the state of Kentucky. And so we are literally at the epicenter here of our nation's economy. And what do we have infrastructure-wise? We have those north-south interstates, got them on both sides. We got the east-west. We got the river, we got rail, and we have some of the largest airports in the world. Well, Tennessee has those too. So does Indiana. So when we have all these companies looking to bring good jobs, that was one of the things that was on the checklist of, do you want to go here, here, or here? That's why it had to be done.
Yeah.
And prior to that, the largest year of investment we'd ever had in the state of Kentucky was a little over $1 billion. We had $9.7 billion in investment. It worked. We created literally thousands and thousands of jobs. So I think it was the right thing to do. Still think it was the right thing to do. The only argument that I ever hear is it's not fair for a union to have to represent somebody who's not paying dues. That's true. Keep this in mind. That union chose that. When they were first formed, they had the option to either be a closed shop or an open shop. And they chose closed because they wanted to be the only union there. So that's not the right to work law that caused that. That was their own filing with the National Labor Board. So that could be changed if that's really the holdup. You know, back to pensions.
That was a tough decision. I mean, you went through, I mean, it was pretty laborious. I know you and I talked several times, and you finally came to a basically a settled issue that, you know, it didn't satisfy everybody.
Right.
But you feel like that it was the best of what we could do.
It was the best of what we could do. That's a great way to say it. We didn't have the votes to do anything more towards what the governor wanted, and I agree with that. The governor's plan was horrible, but we had to do something. I mean, even every pension board agreed, yeah, we're in trouble. We have to do something. And so you're in that, you know, classic Hobson's choice kind of thing. You got to take some action. Where do you go? And it was a good plan.
Do you feel like you actually saved the pension? I guess is the question.
You know, we certainly improved the financial stability. The next few years will tell. And listen, we're going to have to pay more over the next few years than we would have had under any other plan.
Yeah.
But what we've done, and this is a good way to think about it, we've moved it from a variable rate mortgage to one that has a steady payment. The level dollar funding basically means we know what the bill is now. Yeah. Whereas before, the thing was getting refinanced every year. And so we were keeping our payments changing, and we were never really knocking the debt out. But this isn't a problem that's going to go away. This is a 25, 30 year.
But that's not something you're going to be revisiting, you think, in this next session?
I think some tweaks will happen, but I mean, I don't know what people would want to change necessarily.
Okay. Well, I guess that's what I was curious about.
No, I know a lot of folks were. The process was ugly there towards the end, and I know that caused a lot of emotion. But I think once the dust settled, nothing changed for retirees. Very minor changes. Nothing changed for people that are in the plan, and very minor changes for people that are coming in. So I'm hopeful that. I don't know what else we could do, Well,
let's move on. Next question.
Right.
What are the issues we're going to be looking at that you think is going to be?
Here's the big one for me. And I don't mean this in a blaming whoever was in charge. We have let our state kind of fall into a state of disrepair.
Infrastructure.
And not just infrastructure, but also like our state parks. Kenny, so much, how it is being a homeowner. If you don't take care of the roof leaks, you get some big bad problems. And that's what we've had. Look what happened with the Stephen Foster story here locally. It was just a horrible state of disrepair. We had to do something. But infrastructure, my goodness, prior administrations depleted the road fund. Down to zero. Last day in office, took it down to zero. The road fund is built up by taxes that we put on gasoline. Well, we've got more fuel efficient cars. Right. We've got electric cars. Fewer people are driving. We're just not bringing in the revenue. And I've learned this now being in this job. If you don't repave a road every 10 years, Mother Nature takes that road back.
Yes, it does.
It breaks it apart and eats it up.
Tremendous deficient bridges too.
Well, so just look at roads for just a second though.
Okay.
We can't even pave what we've got, and we're falling behind 500 miles a year just in resurfacing what we already have. So that means there's no money to build a new road. Now let's go back to jobs and good jobs. How do you get big factories to move in here with good jobs? They've got to have that infrastructure. They've got to have those access roads. We don't have the money to build it. Our river ports haven't been touched in forever. Our bridges, you're right. We have over 100 bridges right now that you're not even allowed to drive across, and apparently we're putting like 10 a month on the list, and we're just not able to get to
Well, for so many years they relied on the road fund, the gasoline tax, and federal match. Federal match has obviously went down over the years, and the gasoline tax, as you said, not really went down, but with fuel-efficient cars, a 15-mile-per-hour car was bringing in more money than a 30-mile-per-hour car now.
And the old formula was tied to the price of the price of oil. And when the barrel of oil price went way high, then it went back low, they put caps and limiters on it. And so now the wholesale price of crude is below the floor, and it's so far below, they're telling us probably isn't going to ever come back to bump this up anymore. So we're kind of getting what we're going to get because of where we drew a line.
Well, does that mean, is there going to have to be a subsidy out of the general fund? I mean, where's the money going to come from? I guess.
Well, so House Bill 609 last year, and I was on a joint bipartisan. We really do get along in Frankfort, despite what the media wants us to do. We took a bipartisan look at it, and House Bill 609 actually, and I voted for this, and I know some people are upset by that, but I think it's the right thing to do. I was for increasing some user fees. User fees not only in the transportation world, automobile, but commercially as well. Yeah. And we were looking at bringing in a lot of new revenue that would be dedicated solely to our infrastructure challenges. Because we're in trouble. Yeah. I mean, just say what you want. We've let it go too long, and now we're in trouble. State parks the same way. Yeah. There's just a lot of problems. And so we've got to fix these things.
Yeah, well, you see the Ohio River Bridge now, toll bridge. I know we're not going back to tolls anywhere. At least I have not anybody talking about that. No. But again, people are scrambling for money because you got to pay for.
And you hit the nail on the head though. The toll there used to be like a federal match, so that was the way they kept up with various federal dollars. Those federal dollars are gone.
Oh,
so
they're gone.
There's no real incentive to do the tolls anymore.
So basically, with you got public school to pay for, you got parks to pay for, infrastructure to pay for. I mean. I know we did add some service fees on this year. I mean, some
Yeah.
service taxes that some people are not necessarily happy about,
But we also lowered your income tax. 17% decrease in income taxes. We went from a high rate at 6 down to a flat 5. And what
was that somewhat of a wash as far as revenue coming in?
No. It's a positive on
Okay, that's
revenue.
what
And here's what we've seen. I was just going to tell you. So far, first 2 months, revenues are up. And on the taxes, this is step 1 of about 4. And again, let's go back to that Indiana, Tennessee. Indiana has about a 3.5% income tax, 3% sales tax. Tennessee has no income tax and a 9% sales tax. Tennessee's average family income has grown at a crazy rate compared to both Indiana and Kentucky. And when we're looking to bring businesses here, let's say you own a company and you're going to pay your employees $40,000 a year. Where would you rather park them? In a place like Tennessee, where they get all that money because there's no income tax and they can choose what they're going to spend it on, or a place like Kentucky where they're going to get 6% less. And so we were finding that we were losing out. And what we were also finding is we have people that live on the borders, both at Indiana and Tennessee, that are going north and south to work because they're able to bring more of that money home. So you look at Kansas. Kansas tried to move from a income tax-based economy to a sales tax-based economy, and they did it overnight. And what happened to Kansas was they turned off the income tax, and then they didn't pay attention to what's going to happen with that sales tax. It doesn't come in like income tax does. There's no automatic withholding from your paycheck.
Right.
So Kansas almost went bankrupt doing this. But North Carolina is a model state that we're watching. North Carolina started moving the income tax down and started spreading out the services that are covered by sales tax. And Kenny, if you look at our state law, it actually says everything's taxed. And if we taxed everything, it'd be $26 billion in revenue. But then we come back in and we make some exemptions. And there's some that we would all probably agree on, like nutritious food. I don't think we need to be taxing people's food. I might dicker with you when we get on the candy bars.
So there's no bread of a Snickers. Exactly.
But then we also carved out of there medicine. Again, I think that's appropriate. Agriculture, you can make your arguments. But then there's 25 pages that literally are just good old boy stuff.
Yeah.
Hey, Rocky, you've been up there for a long time. You're my buddy. Can you get me this? Can you get me that? And so we need to really look at, okay, what else can we expand it to? And what you're going to find. Because see, under the income tax, it's about 50% of the people in Kentucky paid no taxes at all.
Yeah.
And so now we're giving, hopefully, everybody, and if you want to check this, go look at your paycheck, compare the one you got last week to the one you got in June. That additional money you're seeing is us reducing the income tax. It's noticeable. It's in your paycheck. Now, are other things taxed? Yeah, but you've got a little more control over it.
Yeah.
So that's the concept.
Opioids. I know that's an issue that I'm reluctant to bring up because I don't know that we have anybody really has a handle on what an answer is for that.
Yeah, we really don't. And it's tough. And Representative Moser from up in Northern Kentucky, she's a nurse. Her husband's a doctor. She's been very active prior to being in the legislature in some Northern Kentucky programs. And she has been great for us because we've been able to pass a number of bills moving treatment up. We passed 2 bills this session that look at stopping the flow of opioids. One of the places that we were finding was when a person passes away, they may have a medicine cabinet full of them. Because that end of life, you were a cancer patient, you were being prescribed them, you needed them. There's, nobody's disputing that, but what happens to them? So we're trying to get it to where hospice, for example, under this new law, hospice, who's usually there at the end of death, has the right now to gather those up and bring them to a destruction station, so we can reduce the number that's getting out on the streets. We're looking at everything we can, but it's going to take more money because we need to decrease our jail population and increase our treatment programs. And that's a tough shift.
Well, again, like I said, I'm thinking of so many things that need funding. Medicaid, for example. I mean, things of that nature.
Yeah.
I mean, so revenue. I mean, it's like it or not, we've got to find a way to either increase revenue.
Well, and revenue's up. The new tax structure is bringing in more revenue, and I think as you watch us go over the next 4 budget cycles, and see if we can't move. We're not going to go to a pure sales tax. We're not going to do what Tennessee's done. But I wouldn't be surprised to see us end up like Indiana has with a nice compromise. And then what you see is you can actually start then lowering the sales tax rate.
Yeah.
You know, it doesn't need to be as high as it is, which would be great.
Well, before we get out of here, is there anything that I haven't touched on that you think the voters need to know about? That
Let me say this, and this is no comment on you and your media job, but you know, the media has overlooked, I think, a lot of positive that came out of the last 2 years. And you go back and you look at the votes, the truth is, I bet 60% of the votes are 98-0. Bipartisan bills getting passed that are doing good for Kentucky. And one thing in particular is kids. And for me personally, I have been very active in anything we at the state level can do to protect kids. We just overhauled substantially the foster care system. Yeah. It was a huge change. Because of the opioid problem, Kenny, we've got so many young kids who are just floating around the foster system with good people that want to adopt them, and there's just roadblocks. So hopefully those things are going to change. We had a whole bunch of pro-life bills that I think were good. And then here locally, I really worked hard. I don't mean to tout my own horn.
No,
I'm going to say one thing here real quick. First time legislature, 5 different bills that I authored, that I drafted, that I filed, that became law. I dare you to go find some other first-year legislature that's gotten 5 bills passed. Yeah. In fact, I had bills passed before some people in my caucus that had been there for 15 years because of the way politics is. But it's because I reached across the aisle and worked with everybody. If it was a good idea, we did it. And we passed House Bill 100 and House Bill 400, which were so good for our bourbon industry and tourism here that it's really going to be good.
Yeah. Well, I did mention at the outset that 98% of what you all do in Frankfort, most people don't know about because you mentioned media doesn't report on some of the mundane day-to-day stuff, and the hot button issues do get all the attention. Yeah. So that's the nature of the beast.
It's unfortunate though, because I think people need to see that. You know what? We all get along up there. We're all working for the same goal.
Well, that's the gist of it. There's no knockdown dragouts out there and what's going on.
There are for sure, but the truth is we all really do get along and try to do what we can.
So again, we summarize here. Why do we want to send Chad McCoy back for another 2 years?
Because honestly, I'm capable of doing a good job for Nelson County. I've proven it. I think if you go look at my record, you'll see I'm not somebody that toes the party line. I'm there for us, and that's what you need.
Well, I asked you this question 2 years ago. I remember asking you this very question. I said, do you work for the Republican Party or do you work for me? And you said you work for me. Now, I'm going to take it away. Okay. No. But that's the question. And is that hard to do? I guess this is sort of the addendum to the interview. Is that hard? Because I'm sure they're putting some pressure on you.
You know what? You'd honestly be surprised. Not at all.
Really?
They truly say this. This is what we would like, but you got to vote your district. Go out and vote your district. And I'll say, unlike Greg Stumbo, and I'll call him out on it, if you went against the Democratic Party, Greg Stumbo would take your chairmanship like that. That is not the case. These guys are honest about it. Now, that doesn't mean they wouldn't love for you to vote with the party on certain things, but you just tell them where you are, and that's fine. And if we don't have the votes, we don't have the votes. We think it's about policies and not people. And if the policies are good, then we ought to be able to get the votes for it.
All right, well, Chad, we do appreciate you taking time out of your day.
Thanks
so you're in a little break right now. I guess you go back later on the first of the year. And this is a short session or long session?
Short session coming up in January. Okay. And we're still active with committee meetings. At least once a week I'm up there for committee meetings all day. But
okay, well, we appreciate you taking the time to stop in here and inform the voters as what's going on. Again, that's what we're here all about. So
great.
Thank you for being here. Chad McCoy, State Representative, 5th District here in Nelson County for the state of Kentucky. We appreciate him being here, and we appreciate you tuning in. And again, we ask you to pay attention to what we're doing. And November 6th, it's your turn. And we really do encourage you strongly to vote, because that's one of the things you're going to hear over and over and over on every interview I do, is please do your part. And we'll do our best to bring the information to you. And Chad will do his best to explain what he's doing. And we do our part. We ask you to do yours. So stick around. A lot more to come here on Channel 6 TV. right after this.